All right, so I wanted to answer an email this week, and this is an email that I've got over and over again through the years. I've been doing Active Melody for 10 years now, and you can imagine with comments and emails that you're just going to hear a lot of repeat stuff. So I got this yesterday from a site member, and I thought I would just sort of set it aside and use that as a video that I could create this week and hopefully help some of you. And the question is about practice, and I get this question all the time. It's about how should I practice? That's the general question. What should that look like? And so when it comes to practice, I kind of think of there's sort of two modes of practice. One is like a maintenance mode where you're just repeating the stuff you already know, maybe playing songs just kind of keeping it in your head. And actually, that's the most fun way to practice because it's comfortable, you're making music, it sounds good. The other way to think about practice is more of like a discovery mode. That's where you're learning something new. It's not as fun because you're having to sort of think about something, you're playing something that doesn't sound as good, you're pushing yourself. You really need to be doing a little bit of both. I would say more of the discovery if you really want to grow as a guitar player. That's the only way you're going to grow. You're not going to grow by just repeating the same old stuff. And that's a hard thing it dawned on me much later, after I'd been playing for, 10 years, I found myself doing the same things and I realized I don't sound that different than I did, a year ago. And that's when I realized, I'm not really exposing myself to new things. So kind of keep that in mind. But here's the email I got from John, and I'm not going to say his last name, but he says, I'm still struggling with how I should be practicing. I go through my scales every day, and I have an okay understanding of the basics. But most of the time, when I sit down to play something, nothing comes out. Hey, I hear you talk about noodling on the guitar. Can you give us an example of what that looks like? Should I be doing that in addition to practicing scales and finger exercises? Well, the whole practice scales and finger exercises, I hate hearing that because I just don't think that way. And to me, the better way to think about practice, instead of, just picturing somebody play a scale up and down over and over again, that seems, maybe if you're just learning the scale, you have to do that. But at some point, you don't want to just keep doing that. You want to start putting that into context. So grab a record, turn on the radio or whatever, grab a friend and just start trying to play along and contribute. You put that skill to use, in other words. Otherwise, it's doesn't have any value, really. It's kind of like memorizing the alphabet and just sitting down and just saying the alphabet over and over again, as opposed to trying to have a conversation like this. So that's the goal, is to have the conversation and be able to just jam and play. And then finger exercises, that sort of comes with that. But let me give an example. I don't really know, I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do this here, but I have a guitar that actually does not fit in frame as I look at myself on the screen, but I'm going to try and just sort of play it like this. But what I was thinking for noodling, to give an example of that, the one thing I love to do just to start off with is to take two chords, like the 1 chord and the 5 chord, something very basic. So if I were to take a B or an E chord and a B7 chord, I can take those two chords, and I know you know those chords, right? You can play those chords. You probably already know your major scale, your major pentatonic scale for sure, I would hope you do, and your minor pentatonic scale. If you know your pentatonic scales for E, and then you've got your two chords there, you have everything you need. You have your tool bag to be able to make music. And so what I like to do is do something like little melody line. There's my E chord. Then we'll go to the B. Now let's do another lick. I'm already creating like a call and response type thing. Very simple melody. Don't go crazy with it. This is not, I'm not using a pick. I'm not even trying to cross pick. I'm not thinking finger exercises. I'm not even thinking scale. I'm just thinking simple melody. Simple. Now I might go to the B part of the song. Right? Go to the B chord. Still the same two chords. And then watch this. Back to your E. Now here's, okay, so when I went to the B, I did this walk down. This is the harmonized sixth thing that I talk about all the time. This It's just your blues. I know you know how to do that. Most of you do, right? You can use that, but stop on the 2nd fret, and you're right in the middle of that B7 chord. I discovered that one point, and I just love that. So I use that as a nice transition to get to the chord. The only thing you'll have to kind of keep in mind is when you're playing something like that, the note you land on needs to be the note in the chord. So you need to think about either an E note, a B note, or a G sharp. As long as you're landing on one of those notes, anything else you want to do in the scale is going to work. So that's what I do to play over like an E and a B7 chord. Now, this other little thing, when I went down into that, that's another box, and I've mentioned this before, but when you're playing in the key of E, you're playing over an E chord, between your 2nd fret and your 4th fret, on the 6th string, 5th string, and 4th string, you have a little major pentatonic box that works really nicely as a way to do fill licks and all kinds of things. So I can play, right? Get us back into the thing. So that's just sort of the thought process that's going on for me there. Now, what I might do to kick it up a notch would be play those same chords, an E and a B7 in another position. So kind of work your way up the neck. So I did everything, my scales, my chords down here. It's hard to hold the guitar like this. But I can move it up now and play an E, a B, like that, and then work it up here and just keep going up the neck, playing the scales along with the chords. You start to get all kinds of ideas, and you realize you're playing all over the neck, and you're doing those things that John mentioned in his email. You're doing scale practicing, you're doing finger exercises, sort of, but you're putting it in a real world context, and it sounds like music. So to me, that's the best way to practice, because you are kind of creating music and you're discovering stuff at the same time, using the same scales you already know, but you're starting to piece it all together in a meaningful way. The other thing you might want to do is, after you get comfortable with the key of E, playing all over the neck with those 2 chords, take another set of 2 chords, just switch keys basically. So let's take it up to G. You could do the same kind of licks. There's a E, a D7, right? You're doing all the same stuff you did down here, but now you're doing it in a different key. That's just a good practice to me, and it's taking simple things. You're taking simple, 2 chords. It's not an overwhelming task to sit down. So back to his question about what does noodling look like? That's what it looks like for me. It's simple. It's not anything. I'm not getting into theory. I'm not getting out any books. I'm not sitting and drilling myself with something complicated. I'm taking 2 chords and I'm trying to make music out of just the basics. So give that a try. Take a few basic chords, a few basic scales, put them together. I know I'm making it sound simple, but it really is kind of that simple. And start coming up with music. Start creating music on the fly. It's so much fun to do. John, I hope that answers your email, and I appreciate the email, and hopefully that helps some others of you out there that are struggling with this whole dilemma of what do you need to do when it comes to practice. Kind of work some of that noodling in, and always be looking for discovery. Don't just play the same old stuff. Try and play something new every time you sit down.